Welcome to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive.
It is so good to be here for this one.
Yeah, it really is. And before we jump into things today, just a quick reminder for everyone listening, if you want to keep up with all our breakdowns, make sure to hit subscribe on the Rugby Obsession feed right now. You really won't want to miss what we have coming up.
Absolutely. The support has been great, so definitely subscribe.
Right. So today, we're celebrating a pretty massive moment in South African rugby. We've got a whole stack of recent reporting and reactions regarding Faf de Klerk's absolute shocked return to play in South Africa.
Shock is, it's the perfect word for it. It completely caught the rugby world off guard.
It really did. We're going to explore the mechanics of his move to the Cheetahs, look at the reactions from some Springbok legends, and, well, figure out what this reveals about the current landscape of South African rugby.
Yeah, because on paper, this transfer it defies the usual logic, you know?
Okay, let's unpack this. Faf de Klerk is a double Rugby World Cup winning Springbok. He hasn't played domestic rugby in South Africa since, 2017?
Yeah, exactly, 2017. Back when he was with the Lions.
Right. And since then, he's been over at Sale Sharks in Manchester and more recently with the Cannon Eagles in Japan. He's been at the very top of the global club game.
Oh, for sure. Cashing in, playing at super high level.
But now, he's leaving Japan. And he's not just coming home. He actively snubbed overseas interest. And he took a pay cut to sign with the Cheetahs in Bloemfontein, the city of roses.
Which is, it's wild when you really think about it.
It is. Especially since the Cheetahs, they've had a rough go structurally. They got dumped from the PRO 14 a while back.
Yeah, that was a huge blow for them.
So now they play in the Currie Cup and the Challenge Cup, but they just don't have that consistent top-level year-round competition. So for Faf, this is like a top-tier executive leaving a lucrative Fortune 500 company in its prime just to work for a regional startup to be closer to home. Because ultimately, the driving factor here is family.
That's the core of it, yeah. He just wants to be closer to his family and his wife's family.
Right. But, looking at it objectively, is taking a pay cut and stepping away from top-tier weekly competition a potential risk for a player of his caliber? Or is this a new trend for veterans?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? But if you look at how people inside the South African rugby circles are reacting, they aren't worried about risk at all.
Really? Even with the lack of week-to-week top-flight games?
Yeah, exactly. Look at what Schalkberger said recently.
Oh, yeah, on the Box Unpacked podcast, right?
Spot on. Schalk just straight up called the move unbelievable. And, he actually made a really brilliant comparison to Ruan Pienaar.
Oh, that's an interesting parallel.
Right, because Pienaar had those highly successful stints with Ulster and Montpellier, and then he made that return to the Free State.
Yeah, he was huge for them.
Massive. Schalk was emphasizing that the immense value these returning players add to the local setups goes way beyond just, their physical output on the pitch.
It's about the standard they bring into the building. Well, before we get into the actual mechanics of what he'll be doing for the Cheetahs, I just want to remind you, the listener, that if you're enjoying this breakdown, make sure to hit subscribe on Rugby Obsession and drop into the comments to let us know your thoughts and opinions on Faf's return. We really want to know what you think about this.
Yeah, let us know if you think this is as huge as we do.
So, getting back to the Cheetahs, what exactly are they getting out of this? Because it's obviously more than just his passing game.
Oh, 100%. Former Springbok hooker Hanyani Shemenge brought up a really great point about this.
What was his take?
Well, Shemenge argues that the Cheetahs desperately need a player like de Klerk precisely for his experience. It's not just about playing. His role is going to be heavily focused on mentoring.
Like an unofficial coach.
Exactly that. He's basically going to be acting as an unofficial coach for the squad, especially the younger guys.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Because does bringing in a larger-than-life superstar to do a bit of coaching risk stepping on the toes of the actual coaching staff? Or is this simply the ultimate cheat code for a developing team?
What's fascinating here is that, given the Cheetahs' specific situation, it really is a cheat code.
Because of that lack of year-round elite competition we mentioned earlier.
Exactly. When you don't have PRO 14 level competition every single weekend, you have to bridge that intensity gap somehow. And having a double World Cup winner passing down institutional knowledge directly to younger players during actual match play is invaluable.
Right, because a coach can only yell so much from the box.
Yeah, but Faf is right there in the defensive line. He can literally grab a young forward by the jersey and tell him where to stand in real time. It completely accelerates their development.
It's like having the answer key while you're taking the test.
It really is.
But, Faf going to the Cheetahs for family reasons and mentorship, it makes perfect sense. But it also reveals this crazy structural reality right now.
Oh, the log jam.
Yes, because, let's be honest, he practically had to go to the Cheetahs because the other major South African unions are just completely overflowing with talent right now.
It's true. Jean de Villiers did a great breakdown of this recently, highlighting the country's incredible depth at the number 9 position. The scrum-half depth is just unreal.
Let's actually look at those other unions because it's staggering,
Yeah.
starting with the Stormers.
Right, so the Stormers already have Kobus Reinach.
Who is world-class.
Absolutely. But they also have these amazing young guys coming through, like Assad Moose and Imad Khan.
Wow, yeah. And then you look up in Pretoria with the Bulls.
Exactly. The Bulls have Embrose Papier, who is playing some of the best, most exceptional rugby of his career right now. And they have other young guys waiting right behind him.
And the Sharks. I mean, their roster's just ridiculous.
The Sharks have 2 active Springboks in Grant Williams and Jaden Hendricks. Plus, Ivan Van Zyl is coming in from Saracens.
That is 3 international quality scrum halves in one squad.
Yeah. And we can't forget the Lions, who have Morne Vandenberg and Nico Stein playing brilliantly. Jean de Villiers pointed out that just a couple of years ago, South Africa was asking, who's next at the 9 position.
I remember that panic.
But now they possess what he called a plethora of 9s, especially with rising stars like Hashim Peed entering the mix.
So what does this all mean? How does a national team's depth transform from a major vulnerability into an absolute embarrassment of riches in just a few years?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it really comes down to competition. This domestic logjam forces players to elevate their game constantly.
Because if you have a bad game, there are 3 guys ready to take your spot.
Exactly. You can't afford to be complacent. And that brutal domestic environment ensures that the national team remains utterly dominant on the world stage. The standard is just incredibly high.
It's an amazing ecosystem. Faf goes back to mentor, which raises the level even more.
It does. And actually, I want to leave the listener with a final thought to mull over regarding this.
Oh, please do.
If we start seeing more elite World Cup winning veterans willingly taking pay cuts to return home as player mentors, how might this permanently disrupt the global club rugby ecosystem where Northern Hemisphere clubs have traditionally monopolized aging superstars?
Wow. If the Southern Hemisphere keeps its brain trust at home, that completely shifts the global balance of power.
It really could change everything about how clubs recruit in the future.
That is a fascinating point to end on. Well, if you want to keep exploring topics like this with us, make sure you hit that subscribe button on the Rugby Obsession feed. We love having you here for these discussions.
Yeah, thanks for hanging out with us today.
Thank you for listening to the Rugby Obsession Deep Dive, and we'll look forward to you listening to our next episode.